Hi Year 9, this is the next lesson on Unexpected Cause. So today we're going to be starting from the beginning of Act 3. Just a quick recap of what we have learnt so far in Act 2. We know that Mrs. Burling admits that Eric is probably distressed due to too much alcohol. Sheila says that his drinking is usual and is a problem for him, which Mrs. Burling tries to deny, and obviously she's embarrassed of the way that makes the family look, but Gerald agrees with Sheila about this. Mr. Burling returns and says Eric's gone to bed because he's too drunk, and the inspector says he too will need to be questioned, so we know that Eric is going to be questioned at the end of this. We know there's building a bit of tension there around Eric. Then we had Gerald's interrogation, where we learn of his involvement with Eva Smith or Daisy Renton. Then we had Mrs. Burling's interrogation, and we learn that she turned her away for money when she came to her for support. And right at the very end of Act 2, we find out that Eric is the father of Eva Smith's unborn child. So what I want you to do now is to have a look at the list of the characters here and rank them in order of how much effect they have on the plot, themes, and the message. So Priestley's message for the play. So we've got Mrs. Burling, we've got the Inspector Ghoul, Gerald, Mr. Burling, Sheila, Eva Smith, and Eric. Put them in order of how much effect you think they've had. Once you've done that, I want you to look closely on where you've placed Eric in this list. Why have you put him there? And explain in a few full sentences your placing of Eric. Just pause the video now for 5 minutes while you do the Do It Now. We're going to be understanding the influences on a character so that we can understand the character progression. We're going to be looking at Eric today, and we're going to be doing that by reading an extract from beginning of Act 3 and then analysing it. We're going to look at nature versus nurture. So what does that term mean, nature versus nurture? If you've heard of it before, just write down what you think it means. If you haven't, you can Google it now to find out, and then write a little definition for yourself. Can you try and think of an example to illustrate what it means? Then write a few sentences. Which argument do you agree with most? So does nature have the most to do with who you become, or does nurture? Just pause the video now, write down your own definition, and you can Google it if you need to. So quick recap, nature is referring to genetic inheritance in the biology of a person, things that you're born with, and nurture refers to external factors, so things after we're born, so your life experiences, what you learn throughout your life, the environment you grow up in. Those are the two arguments we're going to be looking at in terms of Eric's character. Eric is clearly a character surrounded by conflict. His actions related to Eva Smith had devastating consequences, not just for himself and his family, but for Eva, most of all. How did Eric become the young, reckless man that he isn't shown to be? Look back through the text and identify key factors that help shape his character. Find evidence for each. What can we find for his inner personality, his family influences, society's expectations of a gentleman at that time? So you can start to build a mind map for Eric Burling here. As we go through the scene today, I want you to add more things, but start today with your mind map for Eric. Pause the video here and write down his personality, his family influences, and society's expectations of him. So the only vocabulary I want to look at today for this scene that we're going to be reading is the word squiffy, which means tipsy or slightly drunk. I think all the other vocabulary you should be okay with today. You can write that one down if you need to remember it. We're starting again, we're beginning of Act 3. We've just found out that Eric is the father of Eva's child, and Mrs. Burling said, "I don't believe it, I won't believe it." And Sheila says, "Mother, I begged you to stop." And then Eric walks in at the beginning of Act 3. So we've had a cliffhanger at the end of Act 2, just as we did with Act 1. I'm going to play the audio. You need to be reading along whilst you're listening. As I said before, some of the audio isn't quite the same as it is on the text. So when you're quoting, you need to quote from the text, not from the audio.
You all know, don't you?
Yes, we know.
Eric, there must be some mistake. You don't know what we've been saying.
It's a good job for him he doesn't, isn't it?
Why?
Because Mother's been busy blaming everything on the young man who got this girl into trouble. And saying he shouldn't escape and should be made an example of.
Now that's enough, Sheila.
You haven't made it any easier for me, have you, Mother?
But I didn't know it was you. I never dreamt. Besides, you're not that type. You don't get drunk. I won't. I never dreamt. Besides, you're not that type. You don't get drunk.
Of course he does. I told you he did.
Oh, you little sneak.
That's not fair. I could have told her months ago, but I didn't. I only told her tonight because I knew it was bound to come out. So I thought she might as well know in advance. Don't forget, I've already been through it.
Sheila, I simply don't understand your attitude.
Neither do I. If you'd had any sense of loyalty...
There'll be plenty of time when I've gone for you all to adjust your family relationships. But now I must hear what your son has to tell me. When did you first meet this girl?
One night last November.
Where?
In the Palace Bar. I'd be there an hour or so with 2 or 3 chaps.
What happened then?
I began talking to her and stood her a few drinks. I was rather far gone by the time we had to go.
Was she drunk too?
She was a bit, chiefly because she'd not had much to eat that day.
You went to her
It seems I insisted. I'm not very clear about it, but afterwards she told me she didn't want me to go in, but that... Well, I was in that state when a chap easily turns nasty. And that's when it happened. And I don't even remember, that's the hellish thing. Oh my God, how stupid it all is.
Eric, how could you?
Sheila, take your mother along to the drawing room.
I want to stay.
You heard what I said. Go on, Sybil.
Come on, Mother.
When did you meet her again?
About a fortnight afterwards.
By appointment?
No. And I couldn't remember her name or where she lived. It was all very vague, but I happened to see her in the Palace Bar.
And you took her home again?
Yes. And this time we talked a bit. She told me something about herself, and I talked too. I told her my name and what I did.
And you made love again?
Yes. I wasn't in love with her or anything, but I liked her. She was pretty and a good sport.
So you had to go to bed with her?
I'm old enough, aren't I?
Go on.
We saw each other a few more times, and then she told me she was going to have a baby.
And of course she was very worried about it.
Well, yes, so was I. I was in a hell of a state about it.
Did she suggest that you ought to marry her?
She didn't want me to marry her. Said I didn't love her.
So what did you propose to do?
Well, she hadn't a job. I didn't feel like trying again for one. And she'd no money left. So I insisted on giving her enough money to keep her going. Until she refused to take any more.
How much did you give her altogether?
I suppose about £50 all told.
£50? Where did you get £50 from? Well,
From the office.
my office?
Yes.
You stole it?
Not really.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry, Arthur.
This isn't my fault.
But I simply have to know what's happening.
I'll tell you what's happening. He's admitted he was responsible for the girl's condition. And now he's telling us he supplied her with money he stole from my office.
Eric,
I intended...
We've heard that story before. How could you have paid it back?
I'd have managed somehow. I had to have some money.
You damn fool. Why didn't you come to me?
Because you're not the kind of father a chap could go to when he's in trouble.
Don't talk to me like that.
Oh.
Your trouble is you've been spoiled.
And my trouble is that I haven't much time. You'll be able to divide the responsibility between you when I've gone. Just one last question. That's all. The girl discovered that this money you were giving her was stolen, didn't she?
That was the worst of all. She wouldn't take any more, and she didn't want to see me again. But how did you know that? Did she tell you?
She told me nothing. I never spoke to her.
She told Mother.
Sheila, she told you. Did she come here? No, she couldn't have. She didn't know I lived here. What happened, Mother? Don't look like that. Tell me what happened.
After she'd done with you, she went to your mother's committee for help. Your mother refused that help.
Then you killed her. She came to you to protect me, and you turned her away. You killed her. And the child she'd have had too. My child.
Eric, please.
You killed them
Eric,
both.
please.
Damn you.
No,
Eric,
I
don't.
didn't understand.
You don't understand anything.
You hysterical young fool.
You never did. You never even tried. You
Okay, that's where we're going to read up to today. As I said before, there's quite a few discrepancies in the audio version and the version on the script, so make sure you're quoting from the script. We're going to be looking at Eric's significance today, so have a look at these two questions. Is Eric's character the same in Act 3 as it appears to be at the start of the play? Why could this be? Which themes grow stronger in the play because of Eric's experience? So pause the video here now and answer these two questions. You can scroll back through the video to read through what we've just read at the beginning of Act 3 and check through your PDF of the play. So some of the themes that grow stronger in the play because of Eric's experience, you can consider the class, social responsibility, gender and age as key themes in this play. If you haven't already, add some quotes onto these themes from Eric's experience. I want you to have a look at this question. How are key themes developed through the character of Eric in the play so far? You're going to write 2 paragraphs. I've given you an idea of what to write for each section. You're going to write 2 paragraphs on this question. So for the point, you need to think about what are the key themes in the play. Just choose one for one paragraph and another for the next one. Find some evidence, so scroll back through. It could be Eric's words or actions. It doesn't have to be Eric who said those words. It could be someone talking about Eric's words or actions. Then explore this. So what does this show about Eric? The theme in context of the whole play. Zoom in, look at a specific word or phrase from your quote. And then for your zoom out, think about how the audience would have reacted to this. And what was Priestley's message to society at this time? What was his message and how was he portraying that through this theme? Pause there. Give yourselves about 20 minutes to write these 2 paragraphs. So, quick recap of where we finished off in the play at the moment in this scene. Mr. Burling says, "Why, you hysterical young fool, get back or I'll." He's telling Eric he's a young fool, but really he's the one that's threatening physical violence towards Eric. He's angry because he's found out that Eric has been stealing money from the company and paying Eva Smith. And we're going to find out how the rest of this scene evolves next lesson. As a quick review, I want you to look back at the Do It Now exercise you did at the beginning of this lesson and think where you placed Eric. Has your opinion changed of him? Why or why not? and just give a few sentences explaining your answer. Once you've finished your work, send it to your English teacher. Well done for your work this week, Year 9. Bye.